Thank you so much. Uh, I just, yeah, thank you.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm gonna get emotional, but like, this is, yeah, like I said in the beginning, like this has been life changing, and I really wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be like, kind of winding. I'd probably be winding up my company at this time if I hadn't taken the leap and joined the program. If anyone's like second guessing it right now, just like listen to that voice in your head. It's like it's
mm,
telling you that this is real and that this is an authentic brand and these results are real and like they can absolutely be yours. I hear so many of my peers that are in the community say, I wish I had joined this earlier. And I feel that in so many ways because I just get it. Um,
mm,
and if I knew what I know now, back prior to starting my brand, it would have gone in a very different direction. Like I would have scaled way quicker, more rapidly. I'd be in a different place. And I am where I am now, and like no looking back. But just the wealth of knowledge that I've gained, I was probably averaging 2 to 4 orders a month, which is around $200 to $300,
mm,
give or take. Like some months I had one order for $60, and other months I would have five, averaging around like 250 to $300. So it was not sustainable,
mm.
literally no traction. And like I said, there were this was mainly just friends and family.
Yeah.
Um, and so I launched my ads mid-April, and um, that month, so I would say like half that month, I did $1,200.
Mhm.
Um, and then the month after that, I did 1,500, and the month after that, I did 7,000, and then last month I did 9,000. Um, and then
Amazing.
this month we still have 10 days left in the month. But I've surpassed the 10,000 mark, and I'm probably like projected for 15 to 20. It feels like wild. If you had told me that these are the numbers that I would be doing 4 months ago or 6 months ago, I would have laughed because I like wouldn't have believed it.
Mm,
Um, so it's just it's just like a very surreal experience. I'm also like in the thick of it, and
yeah.
and packing orders day and night with like great problems to have. So like
Yeah.
different issues to solve or different challenges to solve now. But like
Mm,
packing orders all of the time and running on very little sleep. But like it's great. It's great. um, and and yeah, I I see those numbers now, or I'm reading them off and looking at them, and I'm just like, this is nowhere where like I want to be, or this is nowhere. This is just the beginning.
mm,
I know that this is not it's not going to stabilize here. It's going to continue.
yeah.
Um, and I think that is the craziest part of it all, because the goalpost now keeps moving, and it was just static for so long.
Mhm.
On like the smallest little things, like my first order from a stranger, and when that
Yeah.
happened, I was like, oh my God, who is this person? Like, like went into to shop, check them up. I was like, am I sure I don't know them? Are they a friend of a friend? Are they, a friend of a relative? Like, who are they? Are you
Mm,
sure that they want to buy my coffee? So that was a very surreal experience. And then hitting these numbers and surpassing, like, the first 100 order mark, and then the 200 order, like it just keeps happening, and
mm,
it won't stop. It doesn't stop unless I want it to stop. My brand is Mood Artisan Coffee. I'm a micro roaster, based out of Toronto, that I basically ship across Canada. And I focus almost exclusively on female producer coffees, so female farmed, female produced coffees, and a female supply chain. And I went into coffee for like the passion that I had for it, and how I just, fell in love with specialty coffee. But it really just took a turn once I realized just the underrepresentation and just the some of like the treatment that happens for women in coffee. And it's really just turned into a mission to try and change that and to get
Mm,
great female coffee out to the masses. No one really does this, especially in Canada, and
mhm,
it's just been like the greatest like honor, and also like having fun while doing it, to really just like show people what you can do when you empower the right people. I started my business 11 months ago, and it was very, I think the best way to describe it is I was very naive. Um,
okay.
I said the thing, I was like, I'm gonna build it and the people will come. Like they will find
Mm,
my website and they will see my coffee and they will purchase it right away. Because why wouldn't they, you know? And and I launched mid-September of last year. And within the first week, a few people purchased, and they were all family and friends. There wasn't a single strange, I call them stranger orders. Like there wasn't a single stranger person's name that I didn't recognize that purchased. And I'm
mm.
like, that's fine. It'll come. And and it honestly did not.
Mm,
And by the end of September, so like 2 weeks in, I was getting very, very discouraged because I just didn't have a plan.
mm,
And I realized that because up until that point, the plan was to launch. I'm gonna launch this business, and then we're gonna figure out all of the stuff later. And a few people had told me, including my sister, and they were like, you need like a marketing strategy. Like there needs to be something here. Maybe you should start your Instagram account now and start posting, like, hype people up about it. But like, no, I don't have time for that. And
yeah,
I'm like, as what you guys say, I'm like, I'm focusing on the product.
mm,
I'm focusing on the branding. And so that was very much where my head was at. And so by end of September and then into October, like there were just no sales. Family and friends are great because they're going to hype you up and they're going to buy the first time, but they're not your core customer base.
mm,
And and that just continued. Um, and and I have, a few friends in coffee. Coffee isn't my like my first career. I come from like a finance background, and again, like it was just this like this ignorance that I had where I'm like, no, I have a business background when in fact like I didn't have an entrepreneurial background. And and so a few of my coffee friends, very few that I still do have, they were like, "You're doing this all the wrong way. Like if you're gonna be successful in coffee, you need to have a B2B, like business to business strategy." And and I knew that, but I also didn't know that because I'm like, "But why can't I have a direct to consumer?" And they're like, "Well, that's just not how things are done." And and I'm like, "But why?"
yeah,
And they're like, well, nobody's doing it and nobody's doing it because it's never worked. So they're like, you're going to find out the hard way that this doesn't work. And I felt so gutted because on the B2B side, it was trying that I was trying everything all at once. But on the B2B side, you need, to a certain extent, you need to be able to compete on price. And I couldn't compete on price because number one, it was a new business. I wasn't buying coffee in bulk. And number two, I was buying like premium coffees. like specifically women produced coffees. And there was no way I could compete on price without running like myself completely into the ground within a few months. Um, and I also in some ways like didn't want to compete on price and like just the principle of the matter, like this coffee is worth more and it tastes better. And so that honestly just continued. And just feeling this way, like just being very, very gutted and very discouraged. And you know, m- maybe like about 3 to 4 months in, I like did this like collab with a subscription service where they like sent my coffee out to all of their subscriber base. And I was like, this is the ticket. This is what's gonna get me like seen and put me on
Mhm.
the map. And I did that and I worked so hard. And I think maybe three customers were repeat customers from that out of like 2,400 people that the coffee went to across Canada. And so like slowly and steadily, just, like I'm like, this company is going to fold by the end of the year. Like now we were in 2025. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, this company, like it's done. It's headed for failure. And so I was just looking at, like I've like bootstrapped this business. It's all based on like my savings. And I said to myself, I'm like, I can't give up on this until I know that I have tried everything. And
Mhm.
so that's when, kind of like you guys came into the picture. I totally thought that, this wasn't going to work for me and that like a D2C kind of meta ads marketing strategy on social media was not the way to go. And the reason why I thought that was because all of my peers in coffee had told me that, number one. And then number two, it was just this confirmation bias
Mm.
where, I didn't see any ads in like for specialty coffee on social media. And I'm like, no one's really running ads, or like no one's really running ads in this way, this
Mhm.
effectively, like with this core, with this like proper messaging. So really like going into it, I was skeptical from that perspective because I was like, I don't know if it's going to work for me and my industry and my brand. Um, and there was this, one friend who had like basically told me, they were like, you're not going to last. Like this is not going to work. And so it was all of that was in my head coming into this. And so that's why when I like originally launched my ads, I thought that I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. I'm doing it, but it's it's not going to work. And it does work. It did work. It does work, and it continues to work. And I guess in some ways I am privileged and grateful that I'm actually one of like the first to market in the specialty coffee industry that is running messaging and ads like this in Canada.
Mm.
But I know that there's like a ton of competitors that are behind me. And once they catch on, it's really going to get super, super competitive. But I just know that I'm like now ahead of them, just one step even.
Mhm.
And it's because I like took this leap and kind of tamed all the skepticism in my head to just like try it and do it. And then I joined, and honestly, like my life is completely changed. As I start to just get into it, like within the first 5 minutes, I've like now said this, I think 100 times, but I'm like, I said to myself in that moment, I'm like, this is the course that like I didn't know I needed.
Mm.
It was just, it was what I needed in the right moment at the right time. Um, I had like had all of this, all of these like I guess failed experiences up until this point with this business, which taught me a lot. And so I went into this program with FGP at the right time because I was like, wow, I have been doing all of these things wrong. And even just like the sense of like not putting so much significance or importance on marketing and ads and just
Mhm.
taking that part for granted. um, it was it was so transformative in terms of like my mindset, just like getting into the zone and then realizing that like if you want to run a business, then this is the path. It's not what you thought it was.
Mm,
And hearing that and having that like almost like a rude awakening, but in like the best of ways. It it really just yeah, it just took me in a very different direction. Um, it has changed, like the course in general has just changed how efficient I am, how I look at my business,
mm,
how I interact and like deal with my customers,
mm,
but also how I like carry myself as a person, and then as an extension, how I present my business and carry my business. All of that has changed, and changed for the better. I went into this because because I wanted to um, roast coffee and like and sell coffees that like I would want to drink and buy myself. But through this and by honing in on my messaging and my offer, I've realized that I'm actually like, not my business's avatar anymore. It has evolved into, something completely different. And yes, I still absolutely like drink my own coffee and buy my own coffee. But it's like it's just a very different mindset. Like
mm,
I market it and I treat it in a very um, in a more strategic manner than I ever did before. And
mm,
that strategy piece is like the key, because I had absolutely no strategy going into this. I had spoken to prior to signing up with you guys. I had spoken to two people, very different in terms of experience and like, kind of like, yeah, world experience. One was more of like a university student where I'm like, oh, can you please like help me with my social media on the side, just a couple hours a week, do some posts and like
yeah,
just do it because I don't know how to do this and I don't have the time for it. So there was that person that I spoke to who was going to do this freelance for me. And then there was another person I spoke to who was very much, like has a great career in marketing, like marketing director, and for has worked in various industries and for ad agencies. And we were sort of talking as to whether she could help me on the side, but like more of like in more depth that in depth than this other
mm,
person. And one of the questions she asked me was, "What is your strategy?" And to that, I responded, like, "What's my like, what should my strategy be?" And so
yeah,
I threw it back at her. I'm like, "Shouldn't you be telling me this?" And I know now that that is not correct. Like I
mm,
am the one that should have the strategy and know the strategy for my own business. But back then I'm
mhm,
like, "Isn't this your job? This is why I'm hiring you. Like you tell me what my strategy is."
yeah, yeah,
So I think back to that and so many other little bits and pieces, and I'm like, wow,
mm,
this is taking a turn for the
yeah,
better. I feel like I was paired with like a great person that really pushed me to
mm,
tap into that like uncomfortable side of like my brand and my messaging, something that I
mm,
didn't really want to touch. I didn't want to be aggressive with the whole female angle, but like at the end of the day, my coffee is female coffee. So
yeah,
he was like, why not? Why are we
yeah,
not doing this? And so it was through his coaching, and him just like, helping me realize that like this was probably like the best course. And I went off and like I took his advice to like,
mm,
and like kept it in mind, but like I went off and like did my own testing and realized that like yes, this was what resonated the most.
mm,
And just like yeah, came full circle back to it, and I was like, yeah, no, this is what works, and like thank you so much for the support. And he's just been like super supportive and like all stages and aspects of like how like at different points of like where and how my brand has grown. So that's just been like so great and like so like game changing for me. And then the last thing I would say is the community.
mm,
I have loved, being able to like it's just like this whole database of information. And like there are times where I've like done a search and like gone back like 3 years or something and found my answer to the question that I was looking for. And so yeah, the community is great, because just for that reason, like it's like a library, I would say. It's
Mm,
just great because um, the questions that I have already been asked and answered. So many other opportunities have come up. Um, I used to have a hard time finding suppliers to buy green coffee from, and specifically women's coffee. And now, suppliers all across like Canada and North America are like reaching out to me directly
mhm.
to be like, please, I do have 5 minutes of, can I
Okay.
have 5 minutes of your time? Because I really think that we could we would align, and I'd love to like for you to try my coffee. Um, and like that was just like unheard of for me before. Like people didn't take me seriously. And
Mhm,
so that's really changed because it really helps my supply chain now, and it really helps me keep things in stock. Female coffee is very rare and hard to find. So that's just been so great. And then another thing is, like B2B opportunities are coming up from this too. People
mm,
see my ads, they see my brand, they see my website, and then like, they message me and they say, "Hey, do you do wholesale?" And then we get that conversation going. And so that wouldn't have happened before through my best efforts or despite my best efforts because they just didn't think that I was this legitimate brand. So there's just been so many other opportunities that have come up from this, which I'm like so grateful for.